Welcome back to another video, guys. It's Friday night bonsai. Friday night, no pub tonight. Behaving myself tonight, no pub. So yeah, it's Friday night and I thought we'll get a couple of trees in just to have a look at. I've been going through them slowly. I did some today. The weather was beautiful today. But I didn't do any filming because it was kind of a messy afternoon. Although it was dry, I was doing a lot of I did some repotting, I did some cleaning up, prepped some moss, just bits and bobs around the garden. I wasn't in one spot for long enough to film it, and I wanted to get as much done as I could. Because tomorrow's Saturday, being that it's Friday night bonsai tonight, and I've got all day tomorrow. So tomorrow we're going to work on the Bulvanensis and the cascading juniper, and also I need to deal with the Chinese privet. Need to clean out the pot. It's got dead moss in there, basically. Yeah, so that's what we're going to do tomorrow. So I'll get this one out of the way because this one doesn't need a lot. I had a look at it earlier and I thought it'd be ideal to do indoors. It's not a messy job. All it is just wiring a couple of these smaller branches, these secondary branches, just to bring them out, so it kind of lets more light in. As you can see, I did trim the needles on this, which I did last year, just to let more light into it, because it was getting a bit dense, a bit heavy. The needles were quite long on it because I was heavily feeding it. Yeah, I've done quite a bit of work to this tree. I've had it 3 years, I think. 3 years. Devon Bonsai. That's where I got it from, off of Neil. I was really fortunate to get this, to be fair. And I still can't believe how much I paid for it, considering it's got such a nice thick trunk with plenty of movement. Okay, the branches are relatively young. It's been chopped not that long ago and these developed, so these branches do look quite young, but they're getting there. They're starting to flake a little bit, but nevertheless, as I say, I was really fortunate to end up with this. Yeah. So, black pines. Yeah, I didn't have a black pine for years. I was always into the junipers, and the only reason why I got this is because of the price, really. And yeah, when I saw it in the bonsai nursery, I think there was 2 of them. And this one had more movement in the trunk. They were about the same size, but this one had more movement. Price the same. And I thought, for that kind of money, I don't think I'm ever going to get such an established black pine. He's not overly big, but he's not obviously small. Yeah, he's kind of like what I regard as a perfect size, really, for me. Not because I enjoy this size, as in like visually. It's perfect for me because I can get lots of these in the garden. They're not too big, not too small, not too big. So it suits me, this size tree in my garden. Doesn't take up too much room, but yet still looks quite substantial. That makes sense? No? Okay. Waffling on again. So yeah, what we're going to do, I'll bring it off this pedestal, and I'll do it down here because you can guarantee the cats will come in and they'll just want to wreck everything. So I'm going to leave the wire on. It's not cutting in. I only wired it beginning of last year, I think. So the wire hasn't been on that long. It's not cutting in, so there's no need to take it off. I will keep an eye on it, especially after spring, because I think it will start cutting in. But at the minute, it's hunky dory. It's all looking good. I say I did a lot of work to it last year, replacing the branches. It was quite a bit wider, and that didn't really suit the trunk being wide. You can see this branch here was out here, and you can see that I've really kind of like pulled it in. I'll get the camera on it, you can have a look. So this branch here kind of came out at this angle, near enough straight. So effectively, you can see it better there. You can imagine this pulled out, it was out about here, and it just looked too kind of flat. Didn't suit the trunk, and I did an hour about kind of having a cascade style, but I played around with it and then pulled it in, and it kind of fitted in well. I mean, you don't see that branch from the front view, but what you will gain from it is depth on this, obviously this part of the pad. Just gives it more of a three-dimensional look, basically. That's what I'm getting at. Yeah, so he's looking pretty good. You say I did trim the needles. You can see they've all gone brown on the ends. That was just to let more light in, which certainly helps with the budding. And you can see that these branches are quite young compared to the trunk, which is not uncommon, because very often the trunk is obviously chopped at one stage. So you can imagine how tall this tree was when it was grown. It's probably field grown. It's certainly an import. But yeah, these branches, I don't know, they're probably 5-6 years old, I would guess, roughly. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's not an ideal shape what's going on in here, but it works with the overall design of the tree. I think I'm not overly keen on this handlebar effect. We might have a look at that in a minute and see if we can do anything, but it is what it is. They're very important branches, so either way they're going to come out the same point. It's whether I kind of manipulate them, bend them. We'll see. Anyway, I'll get them back down on the top, and we can then start putting some wire on it, and you'll see what I'm on about. So I think the first thing we're going to deal with is this apex. Now, it looks pretty good from the front view, the whole silhouette. It does look good. But there is kind of like an empty space in here, because where this crown separates to form the apex, it's all coming out on one point, so that point is empty. So what I'm going to do is just wire this one and just bring him in slightly. From the front view, it doesn't make any difference. I've got to play around with it. It doesn't affect the silhouette of it. But what I want to do is fill that area, because I don't want any more back budding in here. there's too much going on anyway. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 coming off the same point to make the apex. So blocking it with another branch will slow down any back budding in there. And then what it will do is open up this part in here, because I want to reduce this down, but I want to see what buds I get. It is a bit thick. There's a few multiple branches coming out, which is great for the apex, but it will need to be reduced at some stage. You can't just keep building up and building up. Yeah, it would just, you won't get any back budding because you're killing the light in there. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, you've got long extensions where the candles have grown. The needles are 2, maybe 3 years old. They'll start falling off, and then all you're left with is just a bare branch. And then you've got to wire it, you've got to pull it in, a bit like this one down the bottom. You've got to pull it all in. And then you've got to rely on back budding. So yeah, it will be thinned out at some stage. So yeah, we'll get some wire on it. Fairly easy. I'm not going to be overly fussy with it, because it's such a small branch. It won't take long to set. They do set quite well, I find, the black pines, if wired correctly, he says. Very spiky tree. But yeah, as I say, I was very fortunate to end up with this tree. And I've got to thank Neil at Devon Bonsai. Yeah, what I should have done was bought, oh, I need to come on the other side of that, bought the other tree as well, really, because as I say, there was a pair of them, but yeah, I don't think I could have afforded the 2. Well, I couldn't, not at the time. But looking back on it, I should have done, really, because the old black pines, they have gone up in price. I mean, I dread to think. Well, I wouldn't, if I was to go out shopping now and look for something like this, I probably wouldn't, because I haven't got the money to do that. Right. Yeah, get in there. I'm going to end up with a rash after this. It's the only thing with that and junipers. Junipers don't like me either. I end up getting a rash. All this spikiness going on. Just get these needles out of the way so I don't trap them. It's just going to be basically, I'm not going to wire this too tight. I'm just literally going to loop it around just to pull it. Doesn't need anything substantial on it. It's only just to guide it down. Fiddly diddly. There we go. Right. Now I'll just loop that one up into there. That will hold it. It's good. Right, now we can just bring it in. Just bring it in just into the middle. So, something like that. There we go. That's the ticket. Right. Right, and then when that produces new candles, I'll select 2 or 3, being that it's the apex. I might do 3 and then just keep an eye on it, just to give it more ramification, more density. Right, that's filled that area, that's good. God, I'm itching already, itching. Right, okay, there's a couple more, but I'm going to let them push out new candles. There's one here that needs kind of bringing this way, just to open that area up. Right, I think that's all we're going to do on the apex, and the next branch will be just this one here. This one here just needs pulling out, so I'll readjust the camera and then you can see. Right, so it's this one here. We don't want to bring it in front of the trunk for obvious reasons, because we don't want to hide that trunk. All we're trying to achieve, I'll come around this side, is just to separate this one from this one. They're running kind of parallel. So I'll bring the foliage back in. I might get rid of this one at some stage, because I've got loads of little growths coming on in here. So we'll probably thin it out maybe later on in the year. But yeah, that's all we need to do, is just give a bit of separation. It's all kind of just tweaking things, basically. Just setting things up for the growing season, because when this does push out needles, I probably won't feed it as much this year, but certainly last year when it pushed out new needles, they were quite long, and it gets quite dense, and then you can't always see what's going on, and it makes it just double hard to deal with anything. So you're better off doing it now before it pushes out new growth. Right, what I might do is just loop him around, just hide him in there. That's all it needs. Nothing major. Push that in. Right, just gonna separate him slightly from where he's coming off of that first branch. You can probably see it now a little bit better. Just tweak it a little bit, and then I'll just bring it back in so he's not hiding the trunk. That's better. That's a lot better. Right, I'll zoom in, you can have a look. Right, this is a better angle. So yeah, you can see it was kind of running parallel with this one. So I've just pulled him out and then just brought him back in. That's it. That's all we need to do, really. Yeah, quite excited about this tree. It's coming on really nice. I say I've had it 3 years and it's changed quite dramatically in 3 years. Shape and position as well, because I repotted this last year. It was in a much smaller pot, believe it or not, but I did a bit of root work, and there were some horrible roots that were kind of arching out the soil. There still is on the back a little bit, did the front half first, and then I'm going to leave it for probably another, or probably 2 years, and then I'll work on the back. So I didn't do all the roots in one go. It's a good technique if you don't want to stress the tree, because I did want it to push out new growth, because there was areas that really needed to be filled. So yeah, give it another 2 years and I'll work on the roots behind, and by then it will probably come out the soil by 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, and then that will reveal the first stage, the first part of the nabari. Because that's one thing about this tree, that there's no nabari as such that's showing. There is under the soil, but I wanted to encourage more roots. It had a slight inverse as well on the soil level, and that was caused many years ago when they wired the trunk. So it is a typically wired trunk. The wire was left on it. When I first got it, you could still see the wire in there. I think it's consumed it now, but the telltale sign of these lines, that's where the wire is. That's why it's in sections. But obviously it was way too tight down here, and you got kind of this effect down here, so there is a bit of inverse. Nothing major, but it was obvious last year when I repotted it. So we'll deal with that later on, say in a couple of years. But yeah, all in all, it's a lovely tree. A lovely tree. So right, there you go, there's the black pine. What I might do is there we go. What I might do is just bring in that juniper quickly, and we'll have a quick glance at it. I'll do a whole separate video on that, because that is pruning, getting it to the first initial start of the growing season, which what I do every year. So I'll show you what I do to the junipers prior to the growing season. I'll go and get him, I'll bring him in. Right, here we go, one juniper. So I'll have a look at this this evening. Just not that it's going to catch me out tomorrow when I'm working on it. He's pretty good, because I did prune him at the end of the year, last year, the end of the growing season, because he went a bit crazy and I wanted to keep the shape. As you can see, it's a procumbens. This was one of my first bonsais. I did a video on that horrible Chinese elm which stressed me out, and I mentioned in that video that when I first started bonsai, I didn't buy any bonsais. I bought garden material, nursery stock, cheap, you know, like I think this was £6. So yeah, this was one of my first bonsais. I've had him a few years now. A few years in the growing. He was only about this big when I first got him. Let's say it was about £6. So yeah, as you can see, the shape's still there. But it's because I pruned it at the end of last growing season. It did carry on growing a little bit. Few of these have popped up. So I think tomorrow, yeah, there's plenty of opportunity to pinch back to create more ramification, and also keep the shape, because there were a few years when I was developing this, I'd prune it back really hard every year, and it always looked a bit sparse. It either looked like a bush or it looked really sparse. And now obviously it's paid off because I've created lots of ramification, especially on the apex, and these pads obviously. So it's paid off doing that, and now I'm in a position now, I just pinch a little bit and it still retains the shape, because it always frustrated me. And there was no point doing it half and half, to prune it just to make it look nice, because it would have just got long and leggy and you wouldn't have created these pads. Well, you would have eventually, but it would have been like 1 step forward, 2 steps back kind of a approach. So yeah, that's what we're going to do tomorrow. So we'll do this in the garden because they give it a nice day. It won't take long to do, it's just a case of pinching. We'll work on the Japanese privet, or Chinese privet rather. That needs cleaning out on top of the soil, scratching up, maybe a new top dressing. Not going to repot it, I don't think it needs repotting. It was really healthy last year. It's kept its leaves as well. So it doesn't need repotting. The Bulvanensis, that doesn't need repotting, but again it needs loosening up. It's gone really dense on top. So I did find it was getting harder and harder last year to water it. The water was just sitting on or running off. So that's what we're going to do. Basically, I'm going to spend the whole day in the garden tomorrow. So there'll be lots to film and lots for you guys to look at. I'm looking forward to it. I haven't had Saturday on my own for a while. So there we go. Right. Yeah, I'll catch you on the next video. Check out the video on the elm, and I do apologise if I was rude to the tree. It was just one of them. Anyway, right, look after yourselves. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers, guys.